think outside the box, if you will. I mean, go there, go off campus. Let's think this through. And sure enough, that's where the Mustang was born. When it finally hit, it took the country by storm.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another edition of Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clore. You know, this is the Motor City, and this is the show where we put cars into the context of your everyday life. And I know if you're a car person and you're living in Detroit and sometimes you get your news about cars online, you always go to the auto section, and there's always that little section that says the 10 worst cars ever made. And you go, oh, really? I wonder what that is. And you click it. There's the 10 ugliest cars. Did I ever have an ugly car? You click it. These are the 10 best cars for the money. You click it. The 10 best cars for winter. Click it. 10 best convertibles. Click it. 10 worst cars of all time. You click it. Why are we doing this? Because here's what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Automotive journalism today is now using this little trick about the worst list, the 10 best or worst list, to get you to click on their content. Why? Because their content isn't worth a darn. That's why you watch Cars in Context. We're going to expose this little scam today, and we're going to bring a guy who is online to really bring knowledge and impart some wisdom, and that is none other than Chris Sawyer. Chris, welcome to Cars in Context yet again. Chris, the editor.
I have no 10 best worst lists on my
That
site.
Is on the virtualdriver.com. Doesn't use the gimmick. You mean you don't need a gimmick?
No.
Oh, I mean you actually know about cars, researched them, have been in the industry for years, and then want to impart that knowledge to someone else without a gimmick?
Something like that. Keeps me busy.
Wow, it's craziness. But before we get into this really important topic to get you to stop clicking on 10 worst lists, we're going to have to do something more important. We have to find out something else.
What's in the news?
That's correct. I will start on this headline. So we want to ask this question to all of you viewers. Who do you think out there, now this is for everyone, answer this question for me. Who are the small car sales kings today? Time's up. Okay, if you thought Toyota or Honda, well, you would be wrong. It's not.
Really?
Yeah, I know. The guy who's, right now, the company who's selling more small cars than anyone else in America is Hyundai and Kia. The Hyundai Kia.
Really? And Hyundai just got rid of their CEO. Oh, that's good.
Here's me saying, what the heck is with this hamster thing selling Kias? Because talk about a gimmick.
Oh, I thought it was something about a paternity test, but okay.
No, here I am.
Oh, that's where they skinnied down.
Yeah, they skinnied the hamster down and put a tuxedo on us and a
gave him a cool, you know.
Because Kia and Hyundai are using this, Kia is using the dancing hamsters to sell, you see those dancing hamsters in their little Kia sold in there? See, that's when you don't have any, what's your message? Hey, let's get something cool the kids would like.
Get people to notice you.
Yeah, well, that's why.
So does being on fire, but that's something else.
I wouldn't recommend that either. But that's why I went up to those hamsters and
Well, they sold 564,000 Kias and Hyundais or whatever?
They did. The Korean brands sold that many Elantras, Velosters, Accents, Souls, Fortes, and Rios. That's a lot of little cars. Then comes Toyota. Toyota's in second place. They had 434,000 Scions and Corollas and Prius Cs and the Yaris.
And most of those were Corollas.
Yeah, that's true. And then Honda was in third place. They had 399. They had Civics and CRZs and Fits and Insights and those things. And then GM is fourth on the small car list, folks. They sold 368,000 small cars, and Ford on their heels with 305,000, even though the Focus is the best-selling small car, best-selling nameplate. Interesting, Volkswagen you think would be doing really well here. 238,000, but it was ahead of Nissan at 252. But here's the deal. There were 2.9 million small cars sold in the U.S. Now this reminds me of back in the day when the last gas crisis came, and some of you kids weren't even alive then, but we had the oil embargo. You couldn't buy gas at any price, forget $5 a gallon. And we were getting rid of our big V8s and our Buick Park Avenues and Electras and Cadillacs.
Deuce and quarters,
and buying Pintos and Vegas and Gremlins, oh my, we were just getting little cars. We wanted little cars. Well, America is getting back up. So we are up about 4.5%, but you know, Chris, because the market went up 7.5%, that they actually lost market share.
Ah, that's why the CEO lost his job.
All right, do you have any cool headlines
Yes,
like
well,
that?
speaking of Korean automakers,
Okay.
it looks like there's a new car company heading to the U.S.
You can't be-
and
you
it's called SsangYong. You
Everybody's-
probably know that name more from appliances than
Oh, I
anything
thought it was
else.
from the disco era. Everybody's saying young tonight?
No.
No.
Uh,
It's Wang Chung.
They've got to come up with a new name, I think, and they make SUVs and crossovers.
So
and
they wanna
last year,
they make them now?
yeah, last year they only sold 145,000 cars
Whoa, why do they want to come here?
because they want to double that number.
Oh, okay.
And they think they could because they build SUVs and stuff, and I think they could do well.
Another
Because a
Korean
lot of
ma-
their stuff is based on what Renault has done in the past, and Renault and Nissan are partners. And
Do we
so-
need another Korean car company here? So maybe you think, yeah.
No, but we're going to get it,
Yeah.
and then we're probably going to get they're owned 75% by Mahindra, and Mahindra, an Indian car company, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
we'll probably see some
Ugh.
deal there, and we'll see how this works.
You don't need any more brands. That's just my idea. I think we have a lot of choices today, but what do
Yeah.
I know? Speaking of brands, there are people who look out for all brands, and they want to make sure we're safe. And there's this little place called the Institute, the Insurance Institute for
The
Highway Safety.
IIHS,
The
yes.
IIHS. They're there ostensibly to make sure that our cars are safe. So what do? They, when all the cars get 5-star crash ratings, what do?
They changed the standards.
I love that. Yeah, then all of a sudden let's make a new test. They all pass that one.
Yeah, they do it. The NCAP standards here and in Europe do it. Oh yeah, yeah.
So recently you might have seen on the headlines that 11 of the new the mini cars, they didn't pass this new test.
But they passed the old one, didn't they?
Yeah.
Huh, funny how that happens.
The only one to pass this new one was the Chevy Spark, and they said, it's called the small overlap test.
Oh, that's
small,
a nasty
yeah,
test.
which smashes the far left or the far right corner of the front end into an immovable barrier, just the
Yeah,
corner
it's
of
a
the
very
car.
small portion of the car that's taking all
Yeah.
the brunt. of
But the
hit.
test, folks, has really caught the automakers off guard because these cars weren't designed for that particular test. They, the cars are pretty darn safe, even small cars these days. But it's a big problem now in the auto industry because they have a problem with the Institute doing this. They're saying, you spring the test on us without giving give us any fair warning. And so then, and some of the automakers like Honda, Subaru, and Volvo picked up on the fact that this test was coming and started designing their cars in anticipation of the standard coming out. But other automakers who never saw it coming, they're going to fail, and what's that going to do? It's just going to hurt their sales for people who think that you're buying a car by its crash worthiness.
This does make a certain amount of sense, but at the same time, I'd rather have a car designed to what the actual accidents going out in the real world are like.
Really? That's putting it in context. The analysts feel that it's just disingenuous that you're going to say, hey, look what we found. You tell the world you found this big problem when you've actually created the problem by creating a test that nobody will pass.
Remember that that movie that Steve Martin did where he was in Germany and they did the drunk test, and the drunk test had like 27 different parts of it, and he had to go like walk on his hands and all this other stuff. And he goes, that's what this is like.
It's crazy. So I agree with that. I think, folks, if you're buying, first of all, I don't generally buy my car in crash worthiness because I really don't plan on crashing.
No, you don't want one
but
that's
I mean,
not safe, but
no,
at the
of
same
course
time.
not. But I mean, pretty much. I mean, come
when
on.
was the last time you bought a new car?
Well, I'm buying off lease now the last couple of.
Smart guy.
Yeah. Okay, why don't you give me a better headline? That was depressing.
Okay, well,
That would depress me so much.
after we get rid of the Koreans, we now have the Chinese, but
They're not coming to the market.
sorta.
Now what?
The Wangjiang Group, China's
that's the-
largest auto parts company,
That sounds like a lot like the other company.
and they're trying to get a foothold in the U.S. auto market. They won court approval to buy the failed luxury maker Fisker Automotive for $149.2
Why would you buy
million.
Fisker when Fisker couldn't make a go of it?
Fisker couldn't make it go because they bit off more than they could chew, for one thing, and they were doing everything. Wangjiang bought A123 Systems, which makes the batteries for the Fisker.
Well, wait a minute. So they bought the Fisker car company. They bought
And
the battery
A123
company.
had their problems, which caused Fisker problems, and Fisker was in over his head to begin
So
with.
the Chinese, who have all of the money because everything we buy is from China, and we send all of our money over there. So now the Chinese are buying up Fisker and the battery company.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder if they're going to continue to supply VL Automotive, which is partly owned by Bob Lutz, and used to take the Fiskers, pull the electric stuff out of it, and put a nice 6.2-liter V8 in there, and give that car the power it deserved.
So with rumors that they're going to go talking to the old GM factory, what was it?
Oh, the Delaware, yeah.
So does
Well,
this
good
mean
luck
that?
with that. They never was going to fill that plant.
I know that's a giant facility, but
I mean,
so do you
well, yeah,
think
but
all these
also-
pieces are all the moons are aligning?
No, because remember Delaware plant? Who's from Delaware? Vice President Joe Biden. Gee, I wonder how that deal got done.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Hey, that has nothing to do with it. Chris.
Politicians are involved. Remember Ronald Reagan's 9 words that should put fear in all our hearts? I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Wait, you saying follow the money?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, listen. Speaking of the Chinese, I got a headline.
More Chinese.
Yeah, this one drives me crazy. Yeah, the state.
Not far to go.
See, I knew he was going to say that because he always does that to me. But that's okay because I am a little bit crazy about the industry, and I think this particular headline just makes you just angry.
This is the one that.
This is
yeah.
where PR people, you in the automotive PR business, you should just take a bow for this one because the state media in China is starting to ripping on automaker Aston Martin. Now you remember Aston Martin, they're sourcing their parts from everyone, and you know there are a few Chinese auto parts suppliers, right?
More than a few.
So they had blamed a recent Aston Martin recall on a Chinese supplier that provided, you ready for this? Low quality brake parts. In other words, they said, well, we spec the part, we source it from China because of what? Price. Cheap. It's at the dollar store.
Now wait a minute. We're talking about a car that has
It's an
nearly
Aston
200 mile an hour capability.
and they want
got
Chinese brake parts.
and they got bad
yeah.
bad brake pedals.
Yeah. So the official Xinhua,
Xinhua.
who?
Xinhua.
Yeah, those guys. They
With rice.
rejected that whole argument, saying, "Hey, wait a minute, you can't say these parts being made in China caused your recall. That's no excuse for the company's poor supplier quality."
I'm sorry. How does that work?
That's like saying our cheap Chinese parts are no excuse for blaming your cheap parts on us.
Wow. These people have a future in government.
You guys, you got to get a PR job. You at the Yinghao news agency. That is bull. I'm just gonna. That's just crazy. Yes, the reason why
We've both done PR. You
yeah,
know.
we have both
We know
worked
this is
on the
done.
PR side.
We know how this is done.
We're not that good because why
we wouldn't have thought of that
because,
one.
no, because we would be embarrassed to say something that
Absolutely.
stupid. So yeah, don't. So listen, Aston Martin, you know, you should test the parts.
We were
that
too
you-
busy saying things like he went to pursue other interests, which is a
Yeah.
nice way of saying he got fired.
That's what he's looking at.
Wanted
other-
to spend more time with his
With a family. Yeah,
which
that we-
usually means his
yeah.
wife caught him with somebody.
But speaking of scams, this whole thing, Chris, about autojournalists today, and what they're doing online, especially on the Yahoo.
It's like
Autos,
it's like the 24-hour news cycle. You gotta
you
fill
got to
this
fill it
space.
with something. So they're filling it with everything you found at the dollar store.
and stuff that sticks to the bottom of your shoes.
quality
yes.
of your automotive journalism beyond what you're getting here at Cars in Context. We're going to expose this scam and tell you why these 10 worst these lists they're making, they're not worth your click at all. We're going to come back and discuss that right after this. Hi, and welcome back to Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clore. Today, we're talking with Chris Sawyer, the editor and founder of thevirtualdriver.com.
Thank you, John.
Well, thank you for being here. This one, Chris, as an auto journalist, we've been in this business since we were little babies. We were
Well,
little babies.
Maybe not that long.
All right,
but
well,
it's been darn
we've been
near
around
30
a
years
while,
for
folks,
me.
in case you haven't noticed. Don't let our baby face looks fool you. We are just, more seasoned veterans than you might think. So we're not this new age of auto journalism when you got a laptop and you got an internet connection. Hey, I can be an expert. No, it doesn't work that way. Essentially, you should have a little bit of experience and knowledge and been in the industry and covered it professionally, actually do writing and editing and going to events.
And know what you're talking about.
That takes a long time. You don't just get that overnight.
Now, I grew up, my dad was an engineer. He was an engineer at Ford. I learned an awful lot from him about why cars handle, why they do, why they do that, why car companies do the things that they do. And then I went to work for an actual car company.
Right, and my brother was an engineer, but it said Lionel on it. And but
Choo Choo Charlie?
But our family, the cars were everything. I mean, I went to
Absolutely.
as a little kid, went to the auto show before it went to Kobo, and I fell in love with cars. And then, as a journalist at the Detroit News, I was waiting for our esteemed auto writer to retire, a guy named Bob Irvin.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob, bless his soul, he just would not retire.
No.
He was there like 800 years. Yeah, so
At
I had to
least.
leave the news and join Chris over there at Auto Week magazine behind the Shadow of the Renson there when it was there. Yeah, it's no longer there. And going to a car magazine that printed every week instead of every month meant that you were a crazy person.
Oh, yeah.
You had to have your car stuff every single week. You couldn't wait 3-4 weeks for another magazine to come out. And of course, that was when Auto Week was weekly.
Yeah, instead of every other week.
But we got, and then of course I went to the OEMs as well, PR, marketing. We've done all that. We've written press kits. So being in the industry requires a certain bit of knowledge, so that when you write something online and you want people to click on it, you go, oh wow, I want to know about that. And that's why we try to structure our shows on Cars in Context, so that you want to know about the inside stories. What's the real deal? But nowadays, folks, there's a trick being played on you online, and it's not on the virtualdriver.com. This trick is being played on you on the big automotive websites who have an auto section, and you'll see almost every week the top 10 or the best 10 or the worst 10 lists, or the worst 5, or the worst 4, the worst cars ever made, the cars you should never have bought, the cars that you should push over a cliff. These cars are terrible. And what happens is
cars, yeah.
crap, then that's how.
Got to be British.
Yeah. So this is what's being perpetrated upon you, the automotive information consumer. And how I got involved in this is because someone, knowing that I was a car guy, bought me that book, Crap Cars. And when I read the 100 crappiest cars, there were at least 40 of them. They're really pretty good cars. Mm-hmm. It was written by a Brit who said, these are the 100 worst cars in America. First of all, he's not in America.
Never drove them.
Second of all, do the British have an automotive industry anymore?
Yes, but it's owned by the Germans and the Japanese.
I rest my case. So this guy, and then of course he said one of my favorite cars, the second generation Mustang, was the worst car ever, which, so I'm thinking to myself, I don't like this whole,
So it became personal, is what
it
you're saying.
became personal,
Yeah.
yeah. So then I started to, I know a guy who I worked with in one of the .coms. When I went to the .com, the automotive.com there, I thought, hey, the internet's going to be the cool thing. The problem with the .com, folks, is when I got there, I'd already been at Auto Week for 7 or 8 years, been 15 years at the paper. I was a professional auto journalist, and when I joined the staff there, my editor was 23 years old, and I said, well, what did you do before you're my boss? And he said, well, I was the shuttle bus driver at Stapleton International Airport in Denver. So obviously he was a well-versed automotive person.
Yes, but he could find all the cars in the
Yeah,
the
well,
parking lot.
he
That's
was
what
good at
gave
that.
him all that knowledge.
Yeah, he knew a lot of the minutiae. He knew the difference between a Camaro Berlinetta and he knew that stuff. But my problem with
whoop.
that is the .com opened my eyes into saying, these are, it's like a candy store. They're trying to find the shiny little object and get you to be interested.
Yeah, because the whole thing is to get you to click through, and the click through
and
gets
they get
counted
paid.
to the ad.
That's how they get paid.
Exactly.
That's right. So lately, I've met this guy who had worked at the .com with me, and he went on to do great things. He became the automotive editor at the Robb Report, and now he's one of the big .com automotive editorial directors. And he came up to me at the Detroit Auto Show, and he said to me, I complained to him about, your 10 worst car list. There were 5 good cars on it. He goes, well, we don't. Was that surprising? I said, yeah. Why? Who does the research? He goes, nobody. What do you mean nobody? He goes, we just put it out there. We just picked some cars. We just picked at random just to get you to click. And he said, guess what? It's their #1 click thing. Every time we do a 10 worst list or a 10 best list or the 10 ugliest list, people click because they want to know if they have made that mistake.
Well, they want to know what somebody thinks, is they also want to compare it to their internal list.
Yeah, so what's wrong with you picking, what is the
Any one of us
inherent
can do
problem
this.
with it? Yeah, when you do the 10, you folks, here are the list of the
Well,
10,
I-
by what standard?
I got a real problem with that. Top 10 worst cars of all time.
Yeah.
All time hasn't passed yet.
Oh, that's right, we have more
So,
time?
That'd be top 10 worst cars in
Yeah.
history.
Yeah, but of all time.
But then I'm just an editor. What do I know?
See what happens when you actually edit copy instead
Yeah,
of just trying
exactly.
to create it?
But
So,
you know, this list right here that you
All right.
passed along to me. I
Yes.
mean, okay, AMC Pacer,
all right.
Cadillac Fleetwood V864. That was pretty bad.
Okay, what?
Ford Pinto, not bad for the reasons he thought it was. Suzuki X90. Hey, Red Bull thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
91 Chrysler TC by Maserati. Boy, did I ever get into trouble at Auto Week for that
I remember
car.
that.
Because it was bad. Cadillac Cimarron. Yeah, that was bad.
What was
Plymouth
it?
Prowler? Really?
Why are they
Plymouth
picking-
Prowler?
What's-
Because it didn't have a manual transmission and only had a 250 horsepower V6?
Seriously?
Really? 58 Ford Edsel. Wasn't as bad as everybody thought it was.
Cars in Context.
In fact, its whole thing was to take 6% of the mid-size market. It did.
Yeah.
The Yugo. Well, it was only bad because it was a Fiat built by the Russians.
Is a third world nation.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
The 2001 Pontiac Aztec. Great interior, ugly exterior.
Well, what's wrong with being ugly? Yeah,
It hasn't bothered me for years.
as they say in high school, yeah, she might be ugly, but she has a great personality.
Yeah, big boned.
Yeah. Oh, man.
The
The list. I mean, okay, so we've all, people have bought those cars.
Exactly, and it's all let's not forget the pompous ass who wrote the one that was in Time magazine that said his worst car of all time, #1, was the Model T, because now he could not look out of his California office and see green fields. All he saw was pollution. He wouldn't have been in a green field and looking out of an office in Los Angeles if there was no Model T. He'd have been working on a farm.
Think about it. Come on. What's wrong with these people? That's the
They're
problem.
pompous.
Okay, so here's the issue, folks. When you see, we're going to tell you right now, when you see online the 10 ugliest cars, the 10 worst cars, whatever the list is,
Don't click.
do not click on it, because you're just pandering to what they want you to do. You're Pavlov's dog. You're clicking on it because you want to see if you might have owned one. And I guarantee you, they're going to put one in there that you did own just to make you feel bad about yourself. Or no, that's not the reason. It's just because they get a click.
It's like comedy that's made at the expense of someone else. It's a real easy, cheap laugh, but it doesn't teach you anything. It doesn't. It's garbage. And I feel the same way a lot about car of the year deals.
We got into that discussion, and I think, folks, what you need to understand is when it comes to automotive journalism, again, we say this on every show, knowledge is power, and you're not going to get that kind of knowledge from the auto section of this whatever.com, because they're there to click through to get ad sales, and they're just trying to get you to do that click. So guess what? You will be disappointed. There won't be anything well researched. There'll be nothing that you could write a letter and say, well, you're going to write in saying you guys are wrong. Who picked these out? And they're going to laugh. When they get their letter, they're going to go, wait a minute, he's angry about our picks. Of course he's angry, because we just made those up.
We don't
We're just trying to
care.
get you to click on something. You think that we're the automotive website you need to go to. No. All you need is the virtualdriver.com and Cars in Context here on WMTV, or Cars
And
in
sunlight
Context.
and water and occasionally food.
Yeah, and then that's all you need. And this chair, and then this pack of matches, that's all I need. And this chair, this matches, Cars in Context, and the virtual drive, that's all I need. That's all you need.
Something
To
like
quote another great movie line. Because what we're going to find out, folks, is that today our automotive journalism is in a sad state of affairs.
I've been on too many long leads with these folks and sat through too many things where the guys are sitting there going, I had that car so sideways, it was so cool. That was a lot of fun, man. Oh,
Dude.
this is really great. And that was about the extent of it.
Now listen, don't think, you're starting to sound like we're old curmudgeons. And all the young, did you hear all that clicking noises? All the young people just turned off the TV. You see that?
Yeah, well, we went back to World of Warcraft.
Okay, but no, folks, we're not trying to say just because you're young that there are some
No, there's some really good young
smart
guys out there.
journalists who are really
I've
learning.
met a lot of them, but
Yeah.
they're, unfortunately, they're in the
But you're being duped.
yes.
You're being duped, and so there's no app for knowledge on the internet
No.
right now. The best thing you can do is go with someone who has look up their credentials. It used to be that you had to have professional training and knowledge and know something before you could write a blog, because otherwise, unlike the virtual driver, most blogs are just smog on the information superhighway.
I would agree with that.
All right, thank you. and no offense to the car shows that are out there. I mean, I love Wheeler Dealers because the Brits are working on cars, but a lot of these shows, these contrived,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and no offense to those of you who watch, like, it's not like Wayne Carini and Chasing Classic Cars. Here are people who have billions of dollars. I no offense to you people. If you're rich and you have those kinds of cars, well, aren't you lucky? But for the rest
Absolutely.
of us,
And we love it.
you know, I'm not interested in, you know, going to the Amelia Island or the Concourse at Pebble Beach and seeing a Ferrari that I'll never own or a $1 million Cobra that I'll never, you know, and I don't dream of these cars because they're unobtainium.
I would. Oh no, I do dream of them. I'd like to know more about them, but not just as, hey, I paid 650 grand for it.
I was here and you weren't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
stinks.
So I'm going to do a show. Well, maybe we'll change Cars and Context into Chasing Crappy Cars. You know, like that Dodge Caravan with a badge transmission that's out on the Gratiot Auto Sales. Okay, I figured. All right. Well, folks, I hope you learned your lesson. Don't click on a worse list, but you know, we have more fun to do.
Yes, we have pride in my ride.
You're right, Pride in My Ride. This is the section of the show where you send me a picture of your car, tell me why you have pride in your ride, and we put it on the air. Today, we have Pride in My Ride from Mary Jean Weschke.
Okay.
Mary Jean lives in Lakeland, Florida. Is she a Tigers
Another
fan?
one for out of town?
Yeah, I know. She sees Cars in Context TV on our YouTube channel, and she sent me these pictures of her cars in her garage. She's got this Shelby GT500 in her garage. Mary
Really?
Jean's over 60 years old and drives a Shelby GT500. You gotta love this woman.
Mary
Yeah, she also
Jean.
has an '87 Celine hatchback, which is in itself a very collectible car.
Yeah.
And her husband has another Celine. He's got a red Celine coupe, a 351, and they have a beautiful new Fusion, which they use as their daily drive. Fusion Sport as a daily driver. Not only that,
So they're a Ford family.
they are, but Mary Jean also just did a charity car.
Oh.
That was called the Mystical Build car, which she had built and raffled off for the American Cancer Society. And now she doesn't have the car. She gave it to the lucky winner, a doctor in Arizona, and the American Cancer Society got $60,000 to fight.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful
Now all she
painting.
has is a picture of the car. That's all she has. But that was really cool. Thank you for sending it in. Send it to me, Jay Clark, Cars and Context, and we'll put you on the air. But that's not all.
No?
No, that was the best part of the show. This is when we bring Lauren Parrott up, and she gets to give us viewer mail.
There
Lauren,
you go.
do we
'Cause
have
nobody
viewer
wants to
mail
watch
today?
us.
Yeah.
You always have your.
How do we do it? Thank you, Lauren.
You guys are so wonderful.
Oh, and so is Lauren Parrott. Folks, watch her show, What to Do at the War Memorial.
Yeah.
Yes.
that's it.
Well, Chris, why don't you take this first wonderful piece of mail from Lauren?
I will. This one comes to us from Jim D. of St. Clair Shores, who watches Cars and Context on Comcast Cable Channel 915, which is,
HD.
there you go. Dear Cars and Context, since the Cadillac ELR has gone on sale, and I've had a hard time finding them at local dealerships. I read on the internet that 44% of Cadillac dealerships, 410 in total, won't be selling the plug-in luxury car because they are located in rural areas, which aren't likely to sell many electric vehicles. Plus, it costs dealers about 15 grand to buy tools and train employees to service the ELR. How will Caddy hit the volume GM needs to pay off his investment in the ELR?
You can't answer that question, can you?
Yeah, sure it can.
Okay.
Investment's already paid off. It's called the Volt. They should have done this the other way around and built the ELR first and then the Volt, because
Jim,
they
there's
would have
your
made
answer.
more profit
See,
that way.
that's why you go to Cars and Context and
Yeah.
talk to Chris Sawyer.
And the dealers that are getting it are the ones that also have Chevy dealers that take care of the Volt, and they already have paid that money
I
up
told you
front.
you'd figure that out.
So
I got one you'll never figure out. This
Okay.
guy comes, this is Chester Z of Mount Clemens, watches us on ATTU versus Channel 99.
so do I.
He said, I heard that Jose Munoz, the chairman of Nissan's North American region, announced the company wants to produce that
IDX?
the IDX car. We saw it at our show. And
Hmm.
we thought we should produce it too. He says that the styling was, you said,
Reminiscent
and
of
it
the
was-
Datsun 510.
yeah, and will it be that small? What platform will it be based on?
Nobody knows that yet, but
But-
it's probably going to be the next Z platform, because the 370Z has grown a little big for what Nissan really wants out of it.
Right.
And
Could
so
be, and people say it could be the Rogue.
no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I
That's
think
built in Smyrna.
this is going to be a front-engine rear-drive car.
So you watch the space and see what happens, and then we'll tell you what really happened, because we're kind of soothsayers. We have a crystal ball.
Yeah,
Yeah, not really.
we're psychotic. Almost psychic.
Psychic. Thanks a lot. No, folks, we want you to send a question in so that Lauren Parrott can bring it up and we can read it here on the air. And if you have one for us, try to stump us. It's at jclore@carsincontext.com. Send it to me. We'll put it on the air and we'll try to answer your question and get to make sure. You know, maybe we should have a raffle to give away, some.
That box?
No, I'm not. This one's never leaving here. We're gonna
Please, folks.
We'll bring on some T-shirts or something for the best question, for answering the best question, and you really get some great information, like skipping those 10 worst car lists.
Oh, God, please.
But don't skip the virtualdriver.com. We're out of time. Chris, thanks again for coming
You're
out.
welcome, John.
Well, that's what we're here for, folks, to make sure that you know that knowledge, especially in this automotive business, is power. I'm your host, John Clore. Until next time, thanks for watching.